People that walked in darkness have seen a great light. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. He is Jesus Christ, the radiance of God's glory, through whom he created the worlds. The Word became flesh and lived among us. The Gospels of Matthew and, as we've heard, St. Luke begin by tracing the human descent of Jesus. But St. John's Gospel sets the event of his birth against a cosmic background in a way that recalls the very first words of the Bible, the book of Genesis. Genesis begins, "In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth." And St. John's Gospel begins, "In the beginning was the Word." I think the Bible is like a 5-act drama. In the beginning is God, who is almighty love, who dwells with his creative word. And he writes a drama in which you and I have a part. Act 1 is the unfolding history of the universe from its beginning, about 13.7 billion years ago. Act 2 is the formation of planet Earth. Act 3 is the story of the birth of life on Earth. Act 4 is the story of our emergence some 160,000 years ago from Africa to inhabit the whole world. The Bible says we're creatures of dust. We're actually made of stardust. We are participants in a web of life. We are the universe celebrating life in conscious self-awareness. But our knowledge has given us great power. Power to dominate, power to exploit the world, and power to destroy the living systems we're part of. Act 5 of our 5-act drama began with the coming of the Christ child. He is the Word made flesh. He embodies God's purpose for us. And our response to Jesus Christ determines how Act 5 unfolds. Your response to Christ will determine the part you will play in this drama. We live in a time of great anxiety about the future. Our screens are filled with images of war and terror. Ecological collapse has begun to threaten us all. More than a fifth of ecosystems worldwide, including the Amazon rainforest, are at risk of catastrophic breakdown, not in the distant future, but in the next few years. And yet we carry on regardless. We carry on having more, consuming more. The good news is that God so loved the world, he came to save us from ourselves. He came to save us from our power to exploit and to destroy. He came to save us from our greed and from our blindness. In the gospel there is the way of the wicked King Herod the Great, and there is the way of the emperor who decrees that all the world should be taxed. But God opens another way to another future. An infant king is born into a poor family. He comes to initiate us into another way. As a new convert to Christianity recently put it, in the kingdom of man, the seas are ribboned with plastic, the forests are burning, the cities bulge with billionaires and tented camps, and still we kneel before the idol of the great God economy as it grows and grows like a cancer cell. And what if this ancient faith is not an obstacle after all, but a way through? As we see the consequence of eating the forbidden fruit, of choosing power over humility, separation over communion, the stakes become clearer every day. Surrender or rebellion, sacrifice or conquest, death of the self or triumph of the will, the cross or the machine. We've always been offered the same choice. The gate is straight, the way is narrow, and maybe we will always fail to walk it. But is there another road that leads home? A few years ago, the former president of the Royal Society, which is the world's oldest scientific academy, published a book worryingly entitled Our Final Century, without a question mark. But the question for him is whether we will find the wisdom to control our destructive power, the power of our science and technology. There is darkness and there is peril. St. John says of Christ, he was in the world and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. But there is light and there is hope in that darkness. To all who receive him and who believe in him, to them he gives power to become children of God. In the book of Revelation, great multitudes from all nations and kindreds, people and tongues stand before the throne and cry out, "Salvation and deliverance belongs to our God." In this vision of salvation, we are part of a web of life in all our relationships with everyone else, with nature. We can perish alone as separate competitive individuals, but we are saved together. Friend of his great work, The Divine Comedy, the poet, the Italian medieval poet, Dante Alighieri, describes his vision of divine reality. He says, "All the scattered leaves of the universe bound by love in one volume." This is the conclusion of Act 5 of the divine drama. Tonight, we are invited to enter into that vision. We are invited to see the glory of Jesus Christ, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. And so I pray that this Christmas you will be given the grace to receive him, that he will be born in you, and that you will know that joy that nothing in life or death can ever destroy.